The highway shoulder was a graveyard for forgotten things, and this boxy, rusted machine was the latest arrival. It sat lopsided on the gravel, tilted toward the ditch. The paint was not just faded, it was a map of neglect, peeling away in long, jagged strips that curled like dead leaves. Beneath the surface, the metal was pitted and misshapen, a testament to decades of exposure to salt, rain, and relentless sun. It looked like a discarded shell, a hollow monument, to a purpose long since abandoned. Every gust of wind from the passing traffic made the loose panels rattle against the frame, a dry, metallic clicking that sounded like teeth chattering in the cold. There was no glass in the side mirrors, just empty, jagged sockets, staring back at the asphalt. The tires were flat, pressed into the dirt until the rims nearly touched the ground. It was an eyesore, a jagged scar on the landscape that forced drivers to swerve their gaze away. The sun beat down on the oxidized roof, heating the metal. The rhythm of the highway changed as a group of teenagers drifted away from the main flow, their laughter cutting through the steady drone of traffic. They stopped in front of the rusted machine, their eyes scanning the peeling metal with open disdain. One of them stepped forward, testing the ground, and delivered a sharp, heavy kick to the front tire. The rubber groaned, a dull, hollow sound that echoed against the frame. "This junk belongs in a scrapyard, not on the road," he shouted. His friends joined in, their jeers rising in volume, their movements erratic and dismissive. They circled the vehicle, pointing at the jagged strips of paint. Standing just inches from the driver's side door, the owner did not move. His hand remained steady on the door handle, fingers uncurling and curling in a slow, rhythmic pulse. He did not look at the teenagers. He did not defend the metal shell. He simply watched the crowd, his face a mask of absolute stillness. The teenagers eventually grew bored of the silence and moved on, their mocking shouts dissolving into the distance, leaving the man alone again. The laughter of the teenagers finally dissolved into the low, constant hum of the distant highway. The man stood alone, the space around him suddenly vast and empty. He did not rush. He waited for the last echoes of the mockery to vanish entirely, ensuring that the transition would be witnessed only by the stillness of the road. His hand moved to his pocket, fingers brushing against the rough fabric before closing around something cold and heavy. He pulled it out. A brass key, thick and tarnished, caught the harsh sunlight, its surface etched with deep, intricate grooves. He held it for a heartbeat, feeling the weight of the metal against his palm, a solid anchor in the shifting dust of the shoulder. He stepped forward, his boots crunching softly on the gravel. He reached the door, his movements precise and unhurried. He aligned the key with the lock, the tip sliding into the narrow aperture. Then, he turned his wrist. A sharp, definitive metallic snap echoed through the air. The door swung outward, the rusted hinges groaning as they gave way. The man did not step back. He simply stood aside, his hand still gripping the metal frame. The air around the vehicle seemed to ripple, a sudden, sharp change in pressure that caught the attention of those still lingering nearby. A woman, who only moments before had been laughing at the uneven lines of the machine, stopped dead in her tracks. Her left foot remained planted in the gravel, her body twisting to face the open cabin. She leaned forward, her neck straining, her eyes widening until the whites were visible. The mockery vanished from her face, replaced by a rigid, hollow stillness. She did not speak. She could not. Her lips parted, but no sound emerged, only a sharp, shallow intake of breath. She took a single, tentative step toward the threshold, her hands rising instinctively to hover near her mouth. The color drained from her skin, leaving her face pale and taut with shock. She stood frozen, staring into the dark, impossible space beyond the rusted metal, her entire demeanor shifting from arrogance to absolute, paralyzed disbelief. The man watched her, his expression remaining neutral, his gaze steady. He gestured once, a slow, inviting movement of his hand toward the interior. The crowd surged forward, a wave of bodies pressing past one another to reach the threshold. They did not wait for an invitation. As the first few stepped over the rusted frame, the roar of the highway vanished, swallowed by a sudden absolute silence. The air inside felt different, cool and still, regulated by a hidden system that hummed beneath the floorboards. They stood in a living area that defied the exterior's decay. Polished oak panels lined the walls, glowing with a warm, amber light. Plush, velvet-upholstered sofas stretched across the cabin, their surfaces inviting and deep. A widescreen display mounted on the far wall flickered to life, projecting a crisp, live feed of the mountain range ahead. The woman who had mocked the vehicle earlier reached out, her fingers pressing into the soft fabric of the cushions. She did not pull away. Her previous scorn dissolved, replaced by a look of profound, hollow disbelief. They stood completely unable to reconcile the rusted shell. The owner moved toward the back of the cabin, his footsteps silent on the thick carpet. He reached for a seamless seam in the oak paneling and pulled. A hidden partition slid open with a soft, pneumatic hiss, revealing a full-sized kitchen tucked into the compact space. The crowd followed, their movements hesitant, as if they feared breaking the spell. The owner stepped into the kitchen area and turned a dial on the stainless steel stove. A sharp click echoed through the room, followed by the steady, rhythmic hiss of gas. A blue flame erupted instantly, dancing with a sharp, unwavering intensity against the metal grate. The heat radiated outward, a tangible proof of life and function that defied the vehicle's exterior decay. He gestured toward a stainless steel fridge. He pulled the handle, and the interior lights spilled out, illuminating shelves stocked with fresh produce and chilled containers. The onlookers pressed closer, watching the blue light flicker. The owner stood by the stove, waiting for the silence to break. The onlookers moved deeper into the narrow space, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpeting. At the very rear, the cabin opened into a private sanctuary. A queen-sized mattress sat beneath a wide skylight, the glass clear and unobstructed, framing the sky above. Warm, recessed LED lighting traced the edges of the sleeping area, casting a soft glow that made the space feel expansive despite its size. Tucked neatly into the side was a compact bathroom. The owner reached out and turned the faucet. Water flowed instantly from the internal tanks, splashing against the porcelain sink with a crisp, rhythmic sound. Beside it, a glass-enclosed shower stood ready, its fixtures polished to a mirror finish. The crowd fell into a heavy, absolute silence. They looked from the skylight to the shower, then back to the bed, their expressions shifting from lingering skepticism to profound, quiet awe. The opulence of the suite was undeniable, a stark, jarring contrast to the rusted metal shell they had mocked only moments before. No one spoke, no one moved. The owner stood at the threshold of the bedroom, his presence anchoring the group. He looked at the faces of the onlookers, noting the way their eyes traced the fine details of the oak and the soft glow of the LEDs. He did not smile, nor did he offer a boast. Instead, he spoke, his voice steady and clear, cutting through the stillness of the cabin. "The road does not care what the shell looks like," he said, his gaze sweeping over them. "It only cares what it carries." The words hung in the air, forcing the group to confront the gap between their earlier mockery and the reality they now occupied. He gestured toward the exit, a silent command that the tour had concluded. The onlookers turned, moving through the kitchen and the living area with a newfound, careful grace. They stepped out onto the gravel shoulder, one by one, their movements slow and deliberate. The owner followed them, his hand gripping the heavy steel handle. He pulled the door shut. The mechanism engaged with a final, definitive thud, the sound vibrating through the rusted metal and echoing across the empty highway. The onlookers remained on the dusty road, their feet planted in the loose gravel. They stared at the unremarkable exterior of the vehicle, the peeling paint and rusted frame now appearing entirely different under their gaze. The mockery had vanished, replaced by a heavy, contemplative silence. Suddenly, the silence was shattered. A low, guttural rumble erupted from beneath the chassis, growing rapidly into a deep, powerful roar that vibrated through the ground and into the soles of their boots. The vehicle shuddered, its suspension settling as the engine found its rhythm. Without a backward glance, the machine surged forward. It kicked up a thick, swirling trail of dust that obscured the road behind it, coating the onlookers in a fine layer of grit. They stood motionless, watching the boxy shape pick up speed. The roar of the engine deepened, a steady, relentless sound that dominated the landscape. They watched until the vehicle became a small, dark speck against the vast horizon, eventually vanishing into the shimmering heat haze. The road returned to its usual empty state, but the people did not move. They remained on the shoulder, the air still thick with the scent of exhaust and the lingering weight of the encounter. Each person stood in the quiet, processing the reality of what they had just witnessed. The rusted shell had carried something profound,